When you are a young parent, we start ignoring ourselves a lot. And we end up giving in so much that over a period we start emptying ourselves.
Taking care of oneself means taking care of their emotions, their feelings, their attitude, their mindset. And if they are not taken care well, it is transferred to the child. Parenting is not about perfection, but be open to imperfections as well.
It's all about raising confident and independent kids, and that comes with teaching them how to manage themselves versus us managing them.
You've heard this announcement in an airplane. Before helping others, assist yourself in wearing an oxygen mask. Why is that, have you wondered? Now let me take this example with respect to parenting. Because as a parent, if you are taking care of yourself, then you will be sure that your ecosystem is thriving. And when I say ecosystem, I'm talking about your family and your children. Our episode today delves into this rather important and unfortunately, sadly neglected aspect of parenting. Hello and welcome to Guidecast, an initiative of Narayana Educational Institutions. Narayana Educational Institutions is truly committed to the development of their students and is also very committed in realizing their dreams. Because at Narayana, your dreams are our dreams. I'm Shazi, and joining us today per usual is Vijay Lakshmi ma'am, who is Chief Welfare Officer at Narayana Educational Institutions. With a vast career of 25 years, Vijay Lakshmi ma'am is also responsible for creating very impactful programs at Narayana. Welcome Vijay Lakshmi ma'am.
Thank you, Shazi. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Also joining us today is Dr. P. Sindhura, Director at Narayana Educational Institutions. She has been a vital cog in the expansion of the brand and has been truly dedicated to provide quality education to lakhs of students across India. A very warm welcome to you, Sindhu.
Thank you, Shazi. Thank you so much for inviting on this show, and it's my pleasure to be part of the show along with both of you.
Let's just jump straight right in. What does it look like to take care of oneself, Sindhu?
I think a lot of times, especially when you are a young parent, we start ignoring ourselves a lot, and we start prioritizing and giving in to societal expectations. And we end up giving in so much that over a period we start emptying ourselves. And what's the point, right? At the end of the day, parents are also human beings. So if you empty yourself, how are you going to help your family? So I think that in that sense, taking care of oneself is very, very important to every individual and especially to a parent.
I really like the way you've put in, how important it is for parents to take care of themselves. I'll elaborate on this a little further, Shazi. Taking care of oneself means taking care of their emotions, their feelings, their attitude, their mindset. And if they are not taken care well, it is transferred to the child. I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, for example, if the parent has not learned to process their emotions or feelings, it goes to the child in unhealthy ways. So these would have a detrimental aspect on children. So if you see the relation, if the parent has processed their feelings or, their unmet needs well, then they're able to pass on to the children, healthy means of coping or healthy behaviors. It's very important for parents to take care of well-being as well.
So true.
And so well put. Sindhu, I know that you don many hats. So I want to understand what are all those hats and how do you manage everything?
Of course, Shazi, not just me, I think every woman wears a lot of hats. In addition to being a daughter, wife, mother, also director of Narayana Education Institutions. But I would simply divide all my roles into two roles. One is professional and one is personal. Professional, as difficult as it sounds from outside, I think it's a relatively easier task because there is a clear expectation. There is a clear expectation and there is clear questioning of your core competencies. And you have a team which work with you and you extract the work from your team and you give the same to your team as well.
Right.
But when it comes to personal life, and especially as a mother, the expectations go haywire and the expectations keep changing. So it's very important to prioritize in your head as to what are the things that you want to deliver and within what timeline, and keep a cap to it, and keep appreciating yourself of the small progress that you make. At least this is the way I do it. I make sure that I take care of my mental health as well as physical health. I try to work out at least 3 times a week, not as great a yoga as you do, but at least, in my own little way, I try to work out a little bit and maintain my physical health. Number two, I have a support system. I have a lovely husband who tries to help me out. I have my parents who are very supportive, my in-laws are very supportive, and I also make sure that there are trustable people around who come handy. And number three being, I try to upgrade myself from time to time as to what are the current needs of current kids. And fourth, and which I think is very, very important, is quality of time versus quantity of time.
Right.
I can give an example of with my kids, Ishan and Ved. They are 5.5 and 4.5. If I read a book with them for 20 minutes, they are much more thrilled than I watching them run around for about an hour.
Yeah.
Or if I just sit and play a game with them, a board game for 15 minutes, that gives them more pleasure than I probably cooking for them.
Right.
So these are the things which, they also appreciate. And I also feel deeply connected to them by doing such things. And of course, I try to make sure that, as cliche as it is, I try to keep my phone away while doing these little activities. So I'm mentally present while I'm with them.
That's amazing. And no, it doesn't sound cliche, because I think for 21st century kids, it's a true gift when their parents put their phone away and they're fully invested. That's so lovely. And what great takeaways, Sindhu. Thank you. Actually, I realized that, it takes a village really to grow and raise a child, right?
Yeah.
And there is no harm in reaching out for help. And which kind of really ties into the next question that I want to ask you. A lot of times we have this whole idea in our head that A, we are a nuclear family now, kind of a setup. B, we are supermen and superwomen and we can do it all. We don't need outside help. A lot of times we are working on autopilot. We don't even realize that we are burnt out, we are depleted. So, ma'am, could you just share a scenario? I mean, I would like to understand what burnout really looks like.
Before I get to burnout, we've talked about autopilot and exhaustion.
Yeah.
So let us understand these words, because most of the time people have a misconception. They think exhaustion is only physical, but exhaustion is also mental. It's the mindset. And where does this come from? All of us in our very roles, we have some expectations. Being a father, being a mother, there are some expectations that we want to live by, and then we want to do our best. And also, if you also notice, Shezi, we actually bite more than that we can chew, right? So this is increasing our expectation. Now, when these expectations are not met, that is when exhaustion happens, which leads to burnout. Like, for example, as a role, father has a certain expectation of himself in the family, the mother has certain expectation. Children also have their expectations on the parents. So when these expectations are not aligned, that leads to conflict and it can lead to exhaustion. You also mentioned another thing called as autopilot. So in a general family setup, what do? To bring the home to a structure, all of us share certain roles and responsibilities in terms of, the chores or, the morning routines and things like that. And what happens when these things are, when you have anything unexpected that comes in, you're not prepared for the rainy day. And that is when you can get into, exhaustion, which leads to burnout. For instance, I'm working and then, the morning routine is all set. And if my child falls ill, all of a sudden, I have a meeting to attend, right? I've not prepared myself in that autopilot mode. So that is when, there is immediate feelings of anxiety. Okay, what do I do? Where do I go? So that creates, feelings of burnout.
Ma'am, that was wonderfully insightful. And now that we have understood what burnout is, could you share a few techniques on how I can cope with burnout?
Okay. So rather than directly addressing as techniques, we'll discuss about a way, an approach towards it. So for us as parents, we've defined certain roles to ourselves. And also, the society has defined the roles for us. For example, if I have to say a mother, the role that we have defined for ourselves or what the society has defined is to be nurturing, caring, and giving, right? So what happens is the mother feels these emotions, more than the child, and always would want to give the best as per the expectations that has been laid out by herself or by the society. And in this process, what happens is in order to meet that expectations, there's always this challenge, right? I have to give my best. So what could be done is at home, rather than trying to do everything, like I'm saying, taking an example as a mother, sharing that responsibility with the others and also understanding it's okay, right? So I don't have to live up to this, or this is my ideal or my definition of being a mother, or this is how much I need to give, right? So that eases off for in terms of expectation.
Okay.
So I would say challenge perfectionism.
That's a big one.
Yes, and another way out of this could be to create a defined structure. For example, a family consists of the father, mother, child, or in certain households, the grandparents as well. So when that responsibility is shared amongst all, rather than falling on only one individual, so there is a sense of ease, and one need not feel burnt out.
Now, in fact, now that you have spoken about this, there is a big giant elephant in the room, and I think it needs to be addressed. And like you rightly said, it doesn't matter where you come from, how educated you are, how emotionally adjusted you are. As a woman, I don't know if it's a cultural nuance, ma'am, but we are so conditioned to feel that guilt, okay? And yes, I have not noticed the men suffering so much from this guilt. So I'm going to just call it mommy guilt, okay? And do you have any thoughts that you want to share with people about this?
Mom's guilt, right? I wouldn't want to be stereotypical here, but unfortunately, we see this in many of the homes. Mother, being the primary caregiver, she spends a lot of time in the nurturing process, and while she's going through this, she's also able to experience the child's emotions. And not only that, in the upbringing process, it is about the expectations that the mother has set on herself, and it's also about how it's a reflection of herself, right? And anything that is not done, it's a question on her judgment, and that is where the guilt comes from. Now, you've asked me earlier, do fathers feel the guilt? Yes, they also do, but they have a different means of displacement. Having said that, in the modern day context, times are changing and roles are evolving, but it would still take some time to wean off the effect of, the mother's role. So what can be done is, if one is able to accept that, parenting is not about perfection, but be open to imperfections as well. And secondly, also share the responsibility. It doesn't mean that, okay, if I don't do enough, that means I'm less of a parent. So once that acceptance comes in, so that is when, the guilt also comes down.
And my sense is it's a two-way street now. Like even society should relax a little when it comes to mothers. And we have a mommy here. So Sindhu, would you like to share do you go through mom's guilt and how do you cope with it? Yeah.
I think it's like how Ms. Vijayalakshmi ma'am has said, we are going through a transition phase where men are also accepting the responsibility of parenthood equally, but it's not a 50-50 yet, right? So I think moms do go through a lot of guilt, and I am no exception to it. I think I am getting better with time, but definitely I go through it every now and then, especially if I have to go on a travel and I miss probably a milestone of a child, or probably I can't attend their event at school, or I've missed their best friend's birthday party, I have a nightmare, or if I don't sit with them at dinner at times. So there are multiple things, small things, big things. I am driven into guilt. But then once again, it's like you said, it takes a village to raise a child. So the way I do it is, I first of all try and set my mind to this notion that, look, if you set yourself a target of spending 20% time with the kids in a week or in a month, probably that's achievable by me. But if I set myself a target of 20% of every day, that's not possible. When I do not manage to attend an event with the kid or do not manage to spend some time with the kid, I try to utilize the technology and the coping mechanism, that is, the relationships I have, to get information about the kids. For example, I may not be watching them every day and getting to hear directly from them what they did in their class, but I try to follow the app. Like even in Narayana, we have Connect app, we have Learn app, where we post on what goes on at work, goes on in school, or about the report card of the kids. So I try to read and get to know how the kids are progressing. And getting to know about what they have done or what they are doing in my absence gives me a hook to talk to them once I return to them.
Lovely. And what excellent, excellent points. I was secretly taking notes. And now it's time for my favorite part of the episode. It's myth debunking time. Ma'am, parents should not show their emotions in front of their children.
Unfortunately, most of the parents are under this misconception that it's wrong to show the other side of themselves. When I say the other side, show expressing their anger or expressing their sadness, or let's say expressing their vulnerability. So when I said children learn a lot by observing parents, so when they get to see when the parent is expressing anger in an appropriate way, it's not about just yelling or shouting, but anger is an important emotion. And as we have talked in one of our episodes, all of us go through different emotions. Usually in parenting, what happens is the parents express only the positive emotions in front of the kids, and they hesitate to express the negative emotions. But the child learns, he picks up from, he or she picks up from the parents, either the father or the mother, how is anger expressed in an appropriate way. Right? And it's also okay, they also feel when parents are showing their vulnerable side, the parents feel more human to them, and the children also feel that, yes, it's okay not to be normal certain times.
And this actually reminds me of the movie Inside Out, Miss Vijayalakshmi.
Right.
Wherein I think in the movie it's very well depicted how happiness is felt only when you also have sadness.
True.
Anger is felt when you also have the laughter, right? So I think a child needs to be exposed to everything, but like how you rightly put it, you have to balance it and express yourself in the right way. And that is what a child needs to learn. I think very well mentioned. Thanks for that.
Ma'am, we have a question that's come in from a parent. Now, normally we get a lot of questions from students and mothers. This is a question that's come from a father. Let's take a look. So the father is the father of a class 7 student. They write that their wife does everything for the child, from feeding her breakfast to packing her school bag to even cleaning up her room. How can I explain to my wife to relax a little and not have the child be so dependent?
We do see this kind of scenario in most of the households where mothers own up that responsibility and do a lot of things for their children, right from packing the bags, as you've said here, or tying a shoelace, or sorting their room cupboard, or even making them sit and then study. So all these things they would want to do for the child. One, they feel that doing these small things, they're doing it out of love. And certain times they also feel that the child wouldn't have much time, so let me just do it and finish it. But what mothers don't realize is, by doing these things for the child, they're depriving the child to be self-reliant in the future. So over here, what the father has expressed, I really understand his concern. So what can be done is give in smaller responsibilities to the child, tidying up their room, or packing their own school bag, right? So small stuff like that, so that they learn to bring in that sense of responsibility at a young age. They learn to be independent, and they also take up charge. Okay, if things are not working, what do I do later? So I would also say problem solving is also learned in this process. And while the child is being taught to do these things, over here, if you see, the mother can also get time rather than getting overly involved. If the parents are able to understand how they can strike a right amount of balance in the kind of support that needs to be given, and then where they have to stay away.
Right.
And that time can be utilized by the parent, where they can sip a nice cup of coffee or spend time for themselves. And in the process also, the child is becoming self-resilient.
Balance is key
Yes.
and also a luxury.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Wonderfully. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, and it has been such a, Sindhara, I'm so grateful to you because you've shared such valuable and valid and relevant information today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. I think it was lovely interacting with both of you. I think a lot of times we do things in an unstructured way. Today, actually, a lot of structure has come into my head as well in what I've been dealing on a regular basis with the kids.
And I mean, your boys are 5.5 and 4.5. Mine is 2, so I was actually taking notes. Yeah, I'm going to go through this now. Lovely. Before we wrap up, would you like to give us a little bit of a sneak peek into what's coming next episode, ma'am?
I guess we are nearly, coming to the season's end. So I feel, talking about building resilience for students or for kids makes a lot of sense. So let's have on the topic building resilience for children.
Wow, I'm very excited to hear that your next episode is going to be on resilience. And I think that nicely weaves into the last answer Ms. Vijayalakshmi has given, right? It's all about raising confident and independent kids. And that comes with teaching them how to manage themselves versus us managing them as parents or as teachers. And that's what we do at Narayana, really. We ensure that it's not just the academics that we go ahead and teach the kids. We try to give them the curricular activities, co-curricular activities, as well as mental well-being sessions so that they turn out to be strong, resilient, as well as independent kids. Because at the end of the day, it's the parents' dreams and the kids' dreams which are our dreams. So your dreams are our dreams at Narayana.
What a wonderful summation to that. The reality is that parents are the center of a child's universe. Whether it is wisdom or emotional support or even a safe environment from a very, very challenging world, a parent dons many, many hats in a child's life. In my opinion, parental well-being is not an act of selfishness, but an act of selflessness, and it is vital to the healthy functioning of a unit. And when I say unit, I mean family unit. I would like to sum up this conversation with a line from our favorite film, Piku. And I say ours because everybody here loves this film. हर माँ बाप अपने बच्चे के लिए मरना नहीं चाहते, जिंदा रहकर उन्हें संभालना चाहते हैं. Thank you for joining Guidecast, where we are dedicated to helping you understand and support your child's journey to success and fulfillment. With insights from Disha, the mental wellness program by Narayana Educational Institutions, a beacon of educational excellence for over 4 decades, we aim to empower parents and students alike. Remember, at Narayana, your dreams are our dreams.